Welcome back, MTG Joe here, and we got our first kind of big drop of spoilers for Brother War, the new set that is coming to Standard in November, and this is an artifact themed set. There is some Phyrexian elements, there's Mishra, there's Teferi that's coming out, there's meld cards where you take two cards and they flip and they conjoin into a giant card. So a lot of cool archetypes here. So we're going to go over some of the spoilers that came out. There's a couple mythics that we just got, and this was on the Wizards official kind of channel that they let notice of today. But these are cards that we could be able to play in Standard in the next coming days. So the first card up is Phyrexian Fleshgorger, 7 mana, 7/5 artifact, Phyrexian Worm. And this card is introducing a new kind of card type called Prototype, which is kind of, think of it in a way as reverse kicker. It's got the more expensive cost, but it gives you an alternate cost. So for 7 mana, you get a 7/5 Trampler, 7/5 Menace Lifelinker that has the ward ability that you have to pay life equal to Fleshgorger's power. So if your opponent wants to target it, they got to take 7 damage if you cast this for 7 mana. Alternatively, you can cast it for its Prototype cost, which is 1 black for a 3 mana, 3/3 Menace Lifelink ward. They have to pay 3 life. And interesting, they include the term, you may cast the spell with different mana cost, color, and size. Size being referring to, I believe, the 3/3 body with this here. Notably, if you do have a cast as a 3/3 and you have an ability to blink it, it comes back as the 7 mana side. So kind of a cool card here, a new way to kind of card early game, card late game, kind of fills the curve. Can be played in a colorless deck, any color deck, and then also in a mono black deck. Or just a black-based deck. Next, we go to the man, the legend, Teferi, coming to ruin every format. And this seems like a really sweet Planeswalker design. Seems like very powerful. So we have Teferi Temporal Pilgrim, 5 mana for loyalty. With the static ability, whenever you draw a card, put a loyalty counter on Teferi. So this 0 mana, draw a card, gets up to 5 loyalty. You can minus it. You create a 2/2 spirit. Whenever you draw a card, it gets a 1/1 counter. The spirit also has vigilance, attack, block, really good. And its ultimate is just insane. Target opponent chooses a permanent they control, returns it to their hand, and then basically they shuffle each non-land permanent they control. So you basically just reset the board. Just tell opponent, here, you can put 1 card in your hand, likely a land, and everything else is going back into your library. They put Time Twister in Alchemy and Historic, so you can do that. There's like Silver Scrutiny, there's all the Connive cards. Imagine attacking a big board with Rafine, put a bunch of counters on this. So this seems like a really flexible top end card that really will be able to get its loyalty high. It's going to be hard to attack into it, so dedicated target Planeswalker removal might come at a premium if this card does see a lot of play. Jumping up next, we have Gix, Yawgmoth Praetor, one of our new legendary creatures. So it's a 3 mana, 3/3 legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. So you got Phyrexian, you got Praetor, you got all the goods there. And I think this card's going to have dual elements. I think this card's actually pretty good for constructed for its first ability. Second ability is kind of win more, probably like an EDH ability, but whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay a life if they do draw a card. So think like linear aggro, putting this as like your 3-drop almost. A bunch of 1 and 2 drops whenever they attack and deal damage. Then you get to draw cards, so you kind of refill your hand that way there. So nice way to kind of keep it going. Plays nicely with Shieldred. You actually gain a life in the end because of Shieldred's ability, so it kind of plays nice. Its second ability is 4 black, so 7 mana total. Discard X cards, exile the top X cards of target opponent's library, and you may play land and cast spells from amongst them without paying their mana cost. So likely more of like a EDH kind of infinite mana, play out your opponent's deck. But I think the first ability just in an aggressive shell can be fairly sweet. We have a lot of good mono black aggro style cards in the format right now, and that'd be an interesting card to see. Next up, we have Hurkyle, Master Wizard, 3 mana, 2/4 legendary wizard human advisor. And this is at the beginning of your end step. If you've cast a non-creature spell this turn, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. For each card type among non-creature spells you've cast this turn, you may put a card of that type among them the revealed cards into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So if you cast an instant, you get to basically pull an instant. If you cast a sorcery, so you're always looking 5 cards deep. The amount of those 5 cards is based on the number of unique non-creature spells that you cast. Probably more of an EDH card. We'd have to see, it might see play in some decks in Constructed, but this one's probably more like Constructed format. We then have the last of the meld cards. So this is Titania, Voice of Gaia. Titania is back. Titania is usually a lands and graveyard matters sub-theme. So for 3 mana, you get a 3/4 reach. Whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, you gain 2 life. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 more land cards in your graveyard and you own and control both Titania, Voice of Gaia, and a land called Agarth, Sanctum Nature, you meld them and flip them into Titania, Gaia Incarnate. And then the land card, it's a land that comes into play tapped unless you control a legendary green creature. So for the most part, it's a tap land unless it's later in the game. Adds a green mana, and then for 4 mana at sorcery speed, you mill 3 and create a 2/2 bear token. So Gaia's okay. The land's pretty bad, I think. You don't really want tap lands, and you probably don't want too many of them unless you're playing like Bard class for the legendaries. But the flip side's actually pretty sweet. So we have Gaia Incarnate. So you get a Vigilance, Reach, Trample, Haste, Power, and Toughness equal to lands you control. When it enters the battlefield, you get to return all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then for 4 mana, you get to put 4 counters on target land, and then you get to animate it as an elemental creature. So like every landfall matters kind of sub-theme all thrown in there. So that's pretty sweet there. Could be like a Lord Windgrace, Urg. We have a lot of cards that are putting things into the graveyard. Fable the Mirror Breaker can mill you. So there's like Jund shells already that are playing with lands in the graveyard. So just be seeing how easy it is to kind of meld that. Definitely something I'm going to be trying out during early access. And then lastly, we have Mishra, Tamer of Mach Fawa. Made up words are fun. 5 mana, 4/4. So permanents you control have ward, sacrifice a permanent. So if they want to target something, they got to sack something. And then each artifact card in your graveyard has an earth for 3 mana. So basically you can pay 3 mana, it comes back from the graveyard, it gains haste. This might allow for some sort of combo. It'd be dependent on the other cards in the format. But if you can get stuff back, it generates mana, you can maybe chain some stuff together. This is kind of a combo enabler maybe. 5 mana is kind of high, but the permanent ward on everything seems kind of cool, just like really taxing your opponent to sack stuff. So that's it for the spoilers for the week. Let me know what stands out. To me, this Teferi seems like amazing. So does the Gix, but I'd be interested in playing with all those. But we'll catch you next time, and looking forward to early access and to try these all out. Thanks for watching. Have a great one.